So the last time we discussed about further in the clouds, and we tried to discuss the more details that actually what are the clouds and how physically they are placed, what are their structure, what are the different technicalities, what we use with the data centers or the cloud centers are in the cloud computing concept. Then we also try to understand how they can communicate, what are their common topologies, what is the EOR and what is the TOR, what are the racks, where they can place, how they can place, and how we can place the servers inside. What is the concept about the raised floor? What are the cooling management systems inside the data center or the cloud center? And we also discuss about the different three layers, that how the cloud become enabled to connect with the internet or the WAN services, and how these layers and switches and routers they work, how we can connect all of them, and what are the cooling systems, what is the control room and what is the telecommunication room, and the other details about the cloud. So this is a sort of the recap for you. Recall those things that what we already discussed. And then if you remember that we also discussed that in the clouds, we not only use to control them with the virtual machines and using the hypervisors, but we didn't discuss that part in detail because that we will be discussing in our upcoming classes very soon. Before that, we discussed about the cloud computing and the different deployment models and its service models. If you remember that we discussed about the cloud deployment models, and we find out that the deployment models are different, like the private and public, community and hybrid. And also we discuss about the cloud computing operational models as well. So we discuss in general only that what is the cloud computing deployment model. Now it's the time to discuss in a great detail that how they are different from each other, how we can compare to any one of the deployment model. After those four models, we will try to discuss the two models today, which will be the private and public, and we will consider all of the aspects for that. What do we mean by all of the aspects? It means that we will see with the angle of different parameters, including SLA, including cost, including benefits, including data, including security, including services, including availability, including benefits, including drawbacks, means we will discuss with all of the aspects. We will be not missing any single of the aspect, and those standard aspects we will discuss for each and every different deployment model, and then we try to compare that how they could be different from each other. So in our today's lecture, we will be discussing about the first two deployment model. Okay, because the others are the service model. So in first two deployment model we will consider today, that is the public and private model. So initially we will try to discuss about the public, and then we will go for the private model, and then we see that how they are different from each other in a great detail. So before we move there, so we can have a look that today we will discuss about the public and private cloud that we highlighted them with the blue color. And the one which is in a green color, it means that we will be discussing that in our next lecture. So then we will be concluding at the end that how critically they are different from each other. So here we go. Our learning outcomes are today, once you will be done, finish this chapter, you will be able to learn, you will be able to analyze the benefits, drawbacks, security considerations of the 4 cloud deployment model: 4 public, private, community, and hybrid. So decide on a cloud deployment model that will satisfy the need of an organization. So why you are going to go in a great detail about those models to discuss all of the aspects, as few of the aspects are mentioned here, including their benefits, drawbacks, security considerations. In case you suppose you are the one who is the cloud engineer in your organization, and in case you suppose your organization means putting a job on your shoulder, that you are the one who may select or choose what could be the right cloud deployment model for your company. So you should be, or you will be able to do so. So for that, you are supposed to have that all required information at your end. So that's why this is the most important information. That's what we are going to discuss today. Sorry. In consideration that how you can be able to decide about the cloud module at your end. And this is actually aligned with the MLO1, which stands for the demonstrate the knowledge of the concept, theory, and principles of cloud computing. So it will provide you the further concept, further principles of the cloud, and the further theories that what we discussed about the cloud previously. So we start from here with the introduction. So you can see from here that the cloud deployment models define where the infrastructure. Just to kind of recap for you. So that the deployment model, it means something which is related to the infrastructure. It is not something which is related to the services. That comes under the service models. So where the infrastructure for the deployment resides and who has control over that infrastructure. So it means that in all of our models, we would see how different they are, but based on the infrastructure and who will be holding or who will be controlling the infrastructure of the cloud. So that's what we will be discussing while we will be comparing these deployment models. So one of the major decisions to be made, why we are discussing these things, because this will help you as a cloud engineer, as a technical engineer, to advise to your company that which infrastructure or which deployment model will best suits to them based on, for sure, their requirements and based on their needs. So this will help you to satisfy the needs of your cloud needs of your organization. And this information can help for taking that decision. So each deployment model has a different values with respect to the different factors. And one of the most important factor is the cost, availability, access, auditing, benefits, drawbacks, and a lot of other things. So we will be considering all of them. Now one need to be aware, your organization need to be aware, you yourself need to be aware when you are going to decide that for which model you are going to choose. So later maybe you may not face any issue or concern after selecting your deployment model. So we are starting with the first model, which is the public cloud model. So in the public cloud model, we believe that we already discussed about the deployment models, that they are for the public and private and community and hybrid. And at that time, we discussed as well that what is the public, what is the private, and what is the community, and how they are different from each other at the abstract level. So we believe that you have the understanding, a right understanding about that already. But now, today we are going to discuss in a great detail as we will be able to take a decision that which model we can choose. So we know that the public cloud model is entirely managed by the external service providers. So it means not managed by the company or by the users, but it is managed by the external resources, or those who are providing us the services, but not by us. So this model, like the other models, it has the capabilities, benefits, and it has the drawbacks as well at the same time. If we start from the benefits, then we can say what are the good benefits, then we can subdivide the benefits into different categories. Number one, among the benefits, we are saying about availability. So availability is the benefit, and in some cases that is the drawback as well. How? We will be having experience in a couple of minutes. So if we see in availability, so you can see the first point, it mentioned that offers the increased availability over what is the available internally. It means within the organization, we don't have those services, those infrastructure, those capabilities. If we are going for the public cloud, then we will have the higher facilities and higher services. Yes, true. That is the benefit. We can see any example of the public cloud, what we are using nowadays. It is publicly available, publicly accessible, more resources, more services, and this we cannot compare with our internal level. Now, the second point, that every organization has an availability. How simply we can explain? We can say that each and every organization is highly concerned about the availability of the services and different types of the services. One of the organization, if they want to use the different sort of the services, so if they are going to use their own, they might require a lot of resources. But if suppose they are using the public model, then they might be required not too much efforts, but maybe the cost and other factors that we can discuss and we can compare, but they will be able to use any kind of infrastructure. Then availability comes at a cost that cloud, or it could be the hardware, or for the software, or for the other services as well. So you can see here that the availability are the benefits. These all things what we are discussing are the other points what we are going to discuss. They are the strength of their services. But if we see the second side of the coin, then we can see that this is the drawbacks. They can be considered as a drawback in some of the specific scenarios. For example, if we are saying availability, so okay, availability is available all the time for any public cloud services. That is the strength. And why we are saying that something, the same thing is could be, it's a drawback. Say for example, if any issue, a downtime is there, and that downtime is right now, for example, and if we are our organization is totally completely relying on that cloud service, our cloud model, and that is the important day for us, we cannot bear the downtime. But if suppose cloud is going to be a downtime, then it will be going for a downtime, not for us, but for everyone. So you can see that this could be a major drawback as well. Now, in some other cases, maybe some technical issues, the organizations, they were not be able to get the access at the right time. That could also be the drawback. Now, in other words, when we see that as a benefit, so we can realize that all of the cloud organizations who are providing the cloud services as a public, they have several arrangements to make it sure that all the services are running, active, and available to the customers. But the cost is involved, which is something other, next to the availability. So we can conclude that availability could be a one benefit are one strength of the public cloud. What is next? The next is scalability. Cloud, they can provide us scalability. They can offer us a high scalability if we compare them with the private clouds, because we cannot compare them with our own infrastructure, organizational infrastructure, because our own organizational infrastructure does not have a strength or capacity or capability to handle the users in millions simultaneously. But the clouds they have, they can provide the services at a large number at the same time. So it means that the scalability option is the much stronger, or make us means free from this tension of the scalability in case if suppose we are using the cloud services, and especially this is much higher while we are using the public cloud deployment model. So here we are trying to discuss them with respect to the other model of the cloud to compare them. So and then we can see that which one is means more better in what specific situation. We cannot say to any one model that this is the only one model which is the best among all, but we can say that one of the model can be best in some certain conditions and the other model can be good in some other certain conditions. So we know that the public cloud has the high scalability, and even as an organization, we may not require to create our own infrastructure or invest on our own infrastructure, or means invest on the human resource for that. But if suppose we are using the public cloud, then these things all will be handled by them, and they have a very high level of the scalability, and then they can use the means millions of the users at the same time. And if we are using the cloud, especially the public cloud, it can even assist us on top of the scalability based on our requirement with the higher capacity as well. That could be a temporary, or that could be on permanent basis based on our requirements. So you can see from the next point, it's mentioning that if we are using the SaaS, which is the software service model, then we can add the users to the applications without adding the associated infrastructure. So here he is explaining that in case if suppose we have public model, and in the public model, if suppose we are using the SaaS or SaaS service model, then we will not be worried about the infrastructure, but we can add as many as users, our services, our softwares, whatever we can, or whatever we wish to go for that. So this is the another benefit, because the scalability is also the benefit. The bandwidth is also the benefit. The storage capacity is also the benefit. Now, in other case, you're saying if we are using the IaaS or the PaaS, you know that we have the three service models. That's what we discussed last time. So IaaS, PaaS, and at the same time the SaaS. So about SaaS we already discussed. Now he's saying, mentioning that if we are using the IaaS or PaaS, we can increase the capacity to build application and services. When, in case if suppose we are using the deployment model is the public cloud. So while you are increasing the number of the applications, there will be no issue related to the scalability or the bandwidth if suppose you are using the public cloud. This is the another benefit for the public cloud. Now when we go to the means, consider the accessibility. In case of the public cloud, then we already know that it has the higher accessibility. It can control many clients, a number of clients easily. So keep these all points in your mind, because when we will be going to the private model, cloud model, then we will try to compare with the public cloud, and then we see that what things were there more better and what things are there more better, and that is the goal of our chapter as well. So services by the public cloud can be accessible in different, or we can say on a variety of devices, using the internet, even without VPN or any other special software or any other special the tool or client software as well. It will be easily available because it's a public cloud, and it will be available to everyone as well. Everyone easily. It will not require any VPN. It will not require any specific tools or software, but with any client software, it will be available because this is the public cloud model. And that's why it's more fit actually in nowadays environment. In what way? Because in nowadays environment, what it means? In nowadays environment, everybody has his own devices. Everybody has his own multiple devices as well. So if we are not using the public cloud model, then it means that will be hard for the organization to provide a connectivity to everyone. So this actually supports strongly to BYOD model. BYOD, I hope that you are aware about that. BYOD, it means bring your own device. So this concept of bring your own device, the users, they have multiple devices. There will be no issue for that. And that can be supported by the public cloud. Cost saving as in a general at a large scale. Most of the public clouds, they offer very attractive packages based on the users' requirements and their needs. And nowadays there is a competition as well. So we can find out the different rates, different packages from the different public clouds as well. So that is also a sort of benefit, or that's also a sort of the strength for the public cloud. If you're using the public cloud, it means that we are saving a lot of amount which we are supposed to invest on the infrastructure, hardware and software that we doesn't require, but we are able to use those services, our required services. We are able to fulfill our needs without having the infrastructure for that. And our customers, they can have access to the particular services. So that's what we mean, that we are saving the cost. And in other words, this is not only the cost. Say, for example, if your organization is not using the public cloud, then they might require infrastructure, hardware, software, human resource, and this everything has a cost. And then your electricity billing, your security charges. So you can see that how many things you will be saving. And you can give the services, provide the services to your clients or your customers or your organization members without spending even a single penny on these heads. But for sure, you will be paying only the cost for the package what you are going to use for the cloud. So this is how the public deployment model is very good for us. However, in this world, nothing is not possible that we have even a single thing which only has the benefits, because always the coin has the two sides. So there are, as we have the benefits, at the same time we have the drawbacks as well. So now when we discuss about the benefits in terms of scalability, in terms of accessibility, in terms of the connectivity, in terms of the availability, in terms of the cost and other things, but at the same time there are few drawbacks as well. So now we are going to discuss about the drawbacks, so we can be knowing the right information about the public clouds. So in the drawbacks, as we said that if we are using the public cloud services, then the infrastructure, we not required human resource, we not required electricity bills, we not required, we are saving the cost. It's fine. But how it comes or how it converts or how it goes against us as well as a drawback, that in case if suppose you are paying the cost for these all things, it means that you have a fully control on them. Things are under your control. But in case if suppose you are not paying these all things, then the things are not under your control. So once the things, infrastructure, human resource, hardware, software, and these all things, say for example, are not under our control, then there are the few drawbacks as well, possible drawbacks as well. So the first of the most important drawback is the integration limitation. So in the public SaaS, as the systems are external, the data is also external because it's a public cloud. So data is external. Data is coming from the different sources. Okay. So that creates an issue of integrations. Okay. Data integration. So That comes under the integration limitation. We cannot move our data without permissions from one premises to another premises. We have the control on our data, but we don't have a fully control on our data in case of the public cloud deployment model. So this could be a chances that if suppose we are using the public cloud, then in the SaaS, we might face a problem for the data integration as well. What are the other issues, other problems? We know that the different applications, they are using the shared functionalities. While as a user, we don't wish to reuse or repeat the functionalities. But because when we are using the cloud services, and if especially we are using the public model, then this is beyond our control. We cannot control that. So this thing sometimes create the challenges for us. Like you can see from the next point, that if the functionality exists in one application, calling this functionality from another application can be a challenge because we don't have sometimes fully rights on our data or on the applications in case of the public model. So that's why this comes under the drawbacks as well. And the service provider, they are providing us the APIs and the web services. They are considering that which of them are more appropriate or more relevant, but that is from their perspective, not from our perspective. So in case if suppose from our perspective, we are looking for some APIs which are not available there, are not included because of the from their perspective that they are not required. So this type of the challenge we might face as well in the public cloud model. So if this is the case, then we have to intentionally or unintentionally, we have to go for the repetition of the functionalities. Okay. We know about the integration limitation in multiple ways. But what is the other drawbacks? The other drawback is reduce the flexibility. As we don't have a complete access, we don't have a complete administration, we don't have a complete power to access the data. So this also reduce our flexibility. As a user, we almost not have any influence on the upgrades or any other thing. You cannot upgrade anything, but you have to wait for them to upgrade to the next level, then you can be only able to use that, even in case of the infrastructure as well. So the service providers, they might be reluctant to provide the multiple versions, just maybe to keep their cloud efficient or to avoid the security issues, whatever the issues they have, but that could be the possibility. So that actually reduces the flexibility of a customer for us as an organization. If suppose something is owned by us, then it could be controlled. So in other case, we can say that reduced flexibility, which is not in our hand in case of the public model, but in case if suppose we have the private model, then in that particular case, maybe we have the more flexibility compared to the reduced capability, reduced flexibility. But then if we have the private model, then in that there are so many other things we may have limitations, but we don't have the limitations in the public model. That's what our target is, to understand and to describe well among the differences, critical differences among all of the deployment models. And then as the deployment engineer, you can be able to identify specifically that which model is most suited for your organization's needs. Now, in case if suppose we want to do and we want to include the different APIs and services which are not available, then it might increase the burden on us. And also we need to train the users as well, because this is for sure, if suppose our users are trained, then our productivity will be different. Now you can see from here, the next drawback is about the forced downtime. You remember we said that availability is the strength of the public cloud. But if it goes on the other side of the coin, so then that was the forced downtime. Suppose they are going to upgrade their services, they are going to go for the maintenance, they will go as per their own plan. They will not ask to the customers. They will not wait for the customers. So the forced downtime, it means that the downtime is announced by the service provider, not with the mutual agreement of people who are the customers or the users. So this is the another challenge. So on top of that, the maintenance may be performed at any time, as we discussed, because the systems are not in our control, but they are in the control of the service provider. They can announce the downtime at any time. Sometimes if suppose they announce the downtime that the services will not be available for these 2 hours, but being a customer, if suppose they are not able to up the services in 2 hours and taking a more time, so as a customer we does not have any control on that to handle this situation. So that's why this forced downtime is actually the drawback, one of the drawback. Now, what are the responsibilities in case of the public cloud? So we know that the service provider is actually responsible for providing the services and for the maintenance and for the support in case if suppose we require. And also the service provider is responsible to provide the right trainings as well, because that belongs to them, that is their products. So the customers are we as an organization, we don't know that how to handle that. So that's why you probably notice that all of the cloud services, they all have the different training programs. So because this is their job to train the people. This is their job to train the people in a way so the people can be able to use right services for their organization. And again, the service provider themselves, they are the one who are completely responsible to provide the services and all the other details to the customers. So all other services are what, such as including the servers, storage, applications, and data and everything, because that is the public and they are the one who are responsible to provide these all things to the customers. While the customer, we as a customer, we are responsible for everything which is related to consuming the services. And also at the same time, we are responsible for the maintenance of the client side. What it mean by the maintenance of the client side? In case if suppose they are suggesting us for any patches, updates, security concerns, so we are supposed to run them, upgrade them, manage them, and do the maintenance on our client side, our client machines. That is our responsibility at our side. And the most important point is internet or the network connectivity. That is our responsibility, that we have to have the network connectivity, internet connectivity, as we can handle, or we can access, or we can use the cloud services. That is not the responsibility of the service providers who are providing the services for the public cloud. Now, another important point is, beside of the benefits, beside of the drawbacks, beside of the responsibilities, the most important concern is about the security concern. So we as a user, we don't have a privileges to control the security of our data. In case if suppose we are using the public cloud, because we are storing our data, you are storing your data using the different social networks on the clouds. You cannot manage the security of your data, but the service provider are the one who are the responsible to manage that one. So security is a big challenge, especially in the public cloud, because as a single user, as an individual user, we don't have the right access, or right powers, or right authority to manage the security of our data. So as a user, we only rely on the service provider for the security of their data as well as for our data. So the data security for an ownership or for individual, for organization, is an issue. For that, we are supposed to trust on the service providers, because we cannot provide the security, especially in public model. So here in this case, we completely dependent on the service provider, that our data is safe or not. If our data is compromised, then who will be responsible? You are not responsible, because you cannot do anything. So that is the security consideration. Next is the compliance. Most of the time, if you receive the different certificates from the service providers, but again, you don't have a way to check them, to verify them, that either it is fine, okay, or not. So again, these are the limitations at our end as well. Other limitation is about the auditing services. We cannot do the auditing as a customer. That also goes to the service provider only. As a user, we have a very limited auditing capabilities. not only the minimum auditing capabilities, but also we don't have the direct access as well. We don't have access to their logs. We don't have their access to their event management systems as well. So we only can rely whatever the data, whatever the details, whatever the services they provide us. So in most of the public clouds, they provide us the application logs or whatever they provide. The organizations normally try to take decision based on that, but we cannot audit them. We don't know that what portion of the information they are providing, and either it is means concrete or not. So these all things means beyond our control. So now you can see that how we are discussing about the auditing. We don't have compliance, data, security considerations, responsibilities from our side and from the service provider, and the forced downtime, the drawbacks actually, reduced flexibility. Okay, this all comes integration issues. This all comes in the drawbacks. And then we already discussed about the benefits, about the cost saving, the accessibility, and the scalability and availability. These all are the things which are the strength of the cloud. And at the same time, there are a lot of things which are the weaknesses of the cloud as well. But those all varies depend on the deployment model. So we took a bit more time to discuss these all important points for the public cloud, because if you understand these points clearly for any one of the deployment model, then it will be just only simple and easy for you to discuss or understand for the rest of the model, deployment model I mean, and then you will be able to compare each of them with each other, and you can be able to reach the conclusion. That's what our goal of this chapter, that you can be able to decide the right model, deployment model of the cloud for your organization. So now, once we're done with the public cloud, now we're going to the private cloud. In the private cloud, we will be again considering these all of the aspects that what we just discussed in case of the public cloud. And then we see that how that is different from the public cloud. We will try to discuss all of the aspects and compare them with the public cloud. So you can see from here that the private cloud, as we know, as we already discussed, that it is the privately owned by the organization or by any firm. So what it means, that completely managed and maintained by the user organizations to whom it hold by. They will be responsible for maintenance and everything. None of the else are the main cloud service provider. No, because that's the private cloud. So it means the other peoples, they don't have access to go there, and that means there are so many things are different if we compare with the public cloud. So in this, you can see that infrastructure is usually means housed in a data center controlled by the user. So infrastructure is provided by the service provider, but the control over that will be the organization's own. That's why we are saying that this is the private one, and that was not possible in the public one. So this is how it's different from the public one. So user organization is responsible for purchase, maintenance, and support as well, because the infrastructure, it is borrowed by the organization. Now it is their private property and under their control. So they are supposed to be taking care about the purchase, maintenance, and all other things. That's what we discuss. Now we can see the benefits, and then we will try to compare those benefits with the public model. That's what we discuss. And then we see that what things are good enough in case of public model and what things are means good enough in case of the private model. So the benefits, we will follow the same heads that what we discussed already in our public model for our better understanding. So you can see from here the benefits. This is the support and troubleshootings. So user can directly access to all of the system easily and they can troubleshoot in case if any problem is there. So that is the benefit. When we talk about the public, there is issue or troubleshoot. As a user, you cannot do anything. But here, you can do anything. Can access the logs and you can run the network traces. You can debug the traces and you can means access the other resources. While in the public, you are not able to do anything out of that. In the public, we completely rely on the service provider, but here we are not supposed to completely rely on them. We will have the logs, we will have the traces, we have the event records, we have the access to manage in case if suppose any issue is there, while these things we were not able to do in the public cloud model. So also the turnaround time could also be faster. So now we took up more time while we were discussing about the public model, because in that we were trying to understand it, what these things are, as well how they fit in the public model. Now in the private model, because we already know that what these things are, so now while we are discussing, we are just trying to compare them with the public model. So we can see that how this varies from the public model. So in the maintenance, we can see that this here in this model, it can be user controlled. They can maintain on their own, so they can announce the time of the maintenance and they know that when to go for the maintenance. Means they might avoid the peak time of the maintenance as well. So they can decide to upgrade or not for newer version, for newer features, for newer functionalities, but at their ease. And then they can carry these activities during a routine time or regular schedule, or whenever they require or whenever they have a flexible schedule. But these things were not possible in case of the public model. So these all things provide a higher flexibility to the organization or to the customers. Now the next thing is about the monitoring. For sure, in this model, user can monitor easily everything at any time. And then they can take a permittive cares and measures in case if suppose they find out anything, any issue or any problem in it. So we can see here that here the users, they may have more proactive approach compared to the public one, because these things all were not possible by the customer while it was using the public cloud model. So this is how it is different from that particular model. But again, as we mentioned, as we discussed, that the drawbacks are always there. Benefits and drawbacks, they are very close friends to each other. They are the two sides of the coin. Nothing in this world you will find which only contain the one side and which only have the benefits or which only have the drawbacks. No, they all weighs together. But it depends that the few things and few other things, the drawbacks are more, and in few other things, the benefits are more. So in the same way, the drawbacks here are also, what are the drawbacks? The most means the important drawback is actually the cost, because we are flexible, we have access, we can do anything, we can control, we can put the downtime, we can have the means other facilities. So for sure we will have to have the cost. So when we say the cost is a drawback, it means the cost compared to the public model, it's a drawback, because there we are supposed to pay very less, but here cannot be. Okay, and also it requires the substantial upfront cost as well. Again, the cost is the issue. So if we have a good money, we can go for this, but again we depend on our requirement and what type of the our requirements are. Now what is the next thing, which is the drawback, or which could be the drawback? So because in this the cost, and also we need the human resource, also we need the other resources that we need to manage and access and make it means able to be working all the time. And the other drawback is about the hardware and software compatibility. Because if suppose we are extending, we're enhancing the services, we are using the infrastructure of the cloud as a private cloud, but there are the issues, there are the softwares and hardware means compatibility issues. If suppose we are going for something and which is not compatible to that, so they will not means change the whole cloud for us. So this is the another drawback beside of the cost. So we have to make sure the software, whatever we want to implement, they are compatible with the hardware, whatever the infrastructure we hire or we are trying to use. So this is the another drawback. Now, the expertise also required. In the public model, we don't require any expertise because everything was being handled by the service provider. Here, no. Here, the things are under our control. So we need cost, we need a limited infrastructure, we need the human resource, we need the expertise as well. We need the experts who can handle all of the applications. We need the internal expertise who can means lead to the expensive trainings for education as well. Because now we are supposed to maintain and manage everything at our end. We are supposed to build our clouds environment, hardware and storage and network security and of these all of the things. That will be our responsibility for that. All of that we are supposed to, we require to have the expertise, which is in other words can be known as the human resource. And for sure human resource cannot work in a means free, so it will again goes to the cost, and again it is a challenge for us to manage it. Now responsibilities, because we are going with the same heads that what we discussed in our public, and we will go with the same heads for all of the rest of the models as well. So responsibilities, you know already that what are the responsibilities, okay, by the service provider, and what are the responsibilities by the means customers or the users. So here in this case, in private, your organization will be responsible for end-to-end solution. It is totally different from the public model. And you will be responsible for the system that provides the services, the client's application, maintenance, and everything. So this will be totally different from the public model, public model. Security considerations, because you have complete control on your data and infrastructure, you are using your own means human resource as well. So now in this case, you will be mainly majorly responsible for controlling the security for your data. You can means be able to do the compliance, you can be able to do the auditing and everything, but at the same time, you will be the only mainly responsible for the security of your data. That was totally different in case of the public cloud. Now for the compliance, you are responsible for any applicable compliance regulations, whatever the government regulations are coming, because that is a private property belongs to you. So you are responsible for security, you are responsible for data, you are responsible for auditing, you are responsible for compliance, everything. So for these, all of the things you will be having to have the human resource and resources. And again, it goes means towards the cost. So the cost will be increasing higher and higher based on the services because what we are using. And that's how this is totally different from the previous model, which was the cloud, public cloud model. So you own your data because everything is under your control. So that's why you will be the responsible for data, for security, the same way for the auditing as well. Going ahead. Now we're reaching to the community cloud, but we will discuss to the community cloud and hybrid cloud in our next lecture. And then we will try to compare all of them, come up with the summarized summary, and we can see that how means it is different in a big picture for all of the deployment model. And that is important because we will be discussing about the service models as well in near future in our upcoming classes. So it can help us with a complete sketch, with a complete understanding that how it is different from each other. Okay, so I hope you understand the points. So now, if you have a question, please let me know. In case if you don't, then we will go for attendance. Please keep ready your cell phones. If you have any question, please let me know. Okay. So then we have to go for to stop the recording first.